You are listening to the podcast To Be Single or Not to Be by Shanna Montana, a podcast where we talk about the single life, dating, and relationships so you can make a decision at the end of each episode to be single or not to be. So today's topic is spring cleaning, love after divorce. And I wanted to talk about this subject because we all know that everyone is always so interested in knowing when you're getting married, when you're having kids, etc. But no one wants to talk aloud about what it's like to handle divorce and to come out on the other side of it. So I figured this would be a safe space to do so because I know that someone can benefit from listening to it for sure. And in doing so, I wanted to bring on some ladies who I know have some experience in this area and can enlighten us all. So on that note, we have the ladies of the awesome podcast, New Nashville, and they are Aigner. Say hello to the people.
Hello, this is Aigner G with Nashville New.
Thank you so much for coming on. And up next, we have Miss Miranda J. Say hi to the listeners.
Hi, everyone. This is Miranda J. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So on this podcast, sometimes we like to get right to it. So we're going to get right to it. So I know that you two are ladies who have experienced divorce and you made a decision to bounce back and find love or at least be open to love again. So the first thing I'm curious to know is, was that a conscious decision that you guys made? Or, how did you navigate being brave enough to try love again? Because it can be scary going back out there when you've done it, at the level of marriage before.
It was not a conscious decision.
Okay.
It is something that happened. I had no intention of having a long-term, serious relationship. It is, we started having conversations and just started spending a lot of time together, and it just naturally developed. And I actually tried to put the brakes on it, but he wasn't really having it.
Not at all.
And so we ended up where we are today. We've been together for more than 4 years now, and things happen the way they are supposed to. So I am one of those people who say after divorce, after a relationship in general, don't go looking for what's next.
Right.
It's really time to be about you, and whatever is meant to be is going to fall.
And I want to ask this. I love that you
agree with that.
Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, I completely agree with that. And I would just say that I'm open to love, but I'm open to dating first.
Okay.
So let's take the baby steps first.
Right.
So with that, it's been 13 to 15 years that I've, kind of put myself out there to start dating, which was, it's so new now,
It is.
So it is very much, it's something new that I had to experience, but I've just allowed myself to be in that space, and friends have tried to hook me up, and I've gotten on the dating app, so that's been an interest. So it's been fun. It's been eye-opening. I was very nervous.
Really?
Because
what were you most nervous about? Was like the dating apps or dating period?
I think overall, because I would say that I'm older.
Okay.
Some may not, but I would say that I'm older, and I'm a mother. I have kids, and so sometimes that can deter people. Like, they don't want to date women with kids. They don't want to date anyone older. And then with this whole new age of, you got texting, you have the apps, some people prefer to talk on the phone. I have a very busy lifestyle, so I had to see what was going to work for me,
And I can vouch for that. She really was hesitant because I would be like, hey, you on the dating sites yet? You know what we doing? She's like,
Right.
no, no, I'm
No,
not ready for
no.
that yet.
She had to take her
No.
time, baby steps into it. Now, based on two things you guys said, I want to ask this question. And I know Anya, it stood out when you said when you started out, you love just kind of organically came to you. You did not go out searching for it. Why
Mhm.
didn't you have an intention to find love again? Because some people are hopeless romantics. I'm sure we all know people who are like never without a partner. They go from one to the next. And
Right.
for you to have experienced, a marriage, for to have separated, gone your separate ways, and for you to be out there and say, well, I'm just, I'm not going to be intentional about this thing. What made you make that decision?
You know, I was with my ex-husband from the time I was about 21, 22 years old until I was, let's see, when did we get a divorce? So until I was around 36, 37.
Oh, okay. So you were prime time with him.
Yes, he got all of my youth.
Yeah,
So
yeah. He definitely did.
I wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to really explore the dating scene because when we met, I was in pharmacy school. I didn't have time to date. We met through a friend. So,
Hmm.
I wasn't out there living the fun life, the fun
Right,
part of
right.
college at all. So, it was just important for me to hang loose. And I was in a
Yeah.
new city. I was desperate to get out of the city that we had spent our married life in.
Hmm.
And I was ready to just explore and try to reclaim who I was
Yeah.
and really just kind of celebrate that
Yeah.
Anya. And, whoever
Absolutely.
came along the way was just what I was looking more for, a friendship, looking for people to have fun with. And,
Hmm.
that was just the season I was in. I had spent too much time dedicated in the,
In the
I won't say
relationship.
dedicated to the wrong person, but dedicated to a relationship that ended.
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. And you were right. I would say, I think if anybody was in your shoes with common sense would have done the same thing that you did. So that would be to be expected to go out and explore and, just really find who you were newly. And then
Hmm.
for Miranda, you talked a little bit about, being that your lifestyle is very fast paced. You have children. You consider yourself to be older, but just know that you look amazing, even if you do consider yourself older.
Right.
Um, what would you say? What was the scariest part for you to jump back out there?
Just knowing that I would have to do it on my own, you know.
Mm,
Um, as far as dating is concerned, I was very apprehensive because, not everybody is on the up and up, and
yeah.
there's
Hmm.
some
Yeah.
jokers out there.
Yeah, let's
So,
be real.
yeah, just to be real, but I just wanted to ease into it, honestly.
Hmm.
And so I'm from here. I'm from Nashville, so I know quite a few people, and so I knew some guys that were single, and so I've
Hmm.
dated, gone to dinner,
Yeah.
hung out, so just testing the water somewhat,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
that looks like, and so just getting reacquainted with, the whole having a flirt, and not flirt, but
Hmm.
the whole
I
awkwardness
know what
of
you
It's
being
mean.
a
I'm
big
right there
out,
with
deal.
you.
you got to get all dressed up and cute and find this and find that. So I was, it was fun. It's been
Yeah.
fun so far.
Yeah.
But
And that's what it should be.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I will say, Miranda, you mentioned this on the front end of your response. It is a scary thought. Once you have been so comfortable in a relationship, in a marriage,
Hmm.
it is a scary thought to get back out on the market. And me and my ex-husband actually had that conversation
Hmm.
before we ever got a divorce. Like, I do not want to get back out into the dating game. Like, are
Ooh.
you serious? It's
it's
just too
it's
much.
it's like trying to get on American Idol. It's hard. It's
you know
trying, it's tough out there. So you all, even before it got to divorce, you had the right idea. And Miranda, I stand right there with you in support that it's a lot of variables that go into dating. And so it could be a scary thing, but I think it's something, ultimately we all have to do if we want to try to find that again. So I want to ask this before, of course, the dating is where we are now, but when it came to your divorce, and either one of you can go first, how did you know it was time to go? Like what told you
Mhm.
like, yeah, this is it? Like I'm done.
Yeah, you want to go first?
I was just about to say, Miranda.
I'll go first. Hilarious. So, I had been married for 13 years, and
Mm-hmm.
probably, I don't know when, but we drifted apart, no
Okay.
fault of anyone. It was just, I think we had different ideas of what marriage should look like and should be
Okay.
like. So, we are co-parents to two fine young men, and I think
Awesome.
that is where our talents lie
Mm-hmm.
instead
Yeah.
of being married to each other. So I
Right.
think probably the last 4 years or so that I knew it was, we were not headed in the right direction. And there's still love there. There'll always be love
Mm-hmm.
there. It just wasn't the kind of love that he needed and not the kind of love that I
Right.
needed. So
Mhm.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Let me take a sip of water. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm wishing it was something else. um, it's weird. My ex-husband and I, we were great friends. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we were really tight best friends, and sometimes that's where it's best for it to be left.
Okay.
There we were best friends, and there was, definitely an attraction there, obviously, but we really should not have been more than that. We To kind of layer on, there was an age difference, about 8 years age
Mm-hmm.
difference, and he's one of those men who has an old soul, so that 8 years really meant
Mm.
something at the end of the day.
Right.
But when we were together, my headspace was very different. I was very mechanical because I was in school, and then I was in
Mm-hmm.
residency, and I didn't have time for a lot of um, things that I would have maybe had a lot of fun doing. And
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of worked, and we were friends, and it worked.
Yeah.
And that's not the best strategy for choosing a life partner.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, so on my side, that's the case. On his side, I don't think he, he kind of had an old school thought process, I think, to marriage. And not that he kind of put any of that off on me
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but some of his actions indicated that might have been what was going on, like maybe he had the right to do certain things.
Mm. Okay.
And, that me feeling like I did not have a partner
Yeah.
is what led to the demise of our marriage. We're not on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supporting me, and I don't know how to support you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
got to that space,
And it makes
and
sense.
that's where it failed.
So, Anya, based on what you were saying, that sounds similar to a story I read recently in my own research about, I was looking up Oprah for whatever reason. And
Mm-hmm.
we know that she's infamously, she's with Stedman. They haven't got married. And I want to know, like, did he ever propose to her? Like, why wouldn't somebody, as powerful as Oprah, and I think in society, sometimes we tend to think that's the pinnacle of success to, get the ring or whatever. And
Right.
so I looked it up, and it said she said I think around the age of maybe 23, in her early 20s he proposed, and she turned him down because she knew that at the place she was at in her career
Mm-hmm.
that she would not have been able to be a wife in the capacity that he would have needed.
Oh
And
yeah.
she said that it was no way, she said, that their relationship would have been lasted, or that they would have still been together had she gotten married. So it made perfect sense about what you said, and recognizing at the time in your life, you might have you had to focus on other things, and it was just like this partnership, but it wasn't the right kind of partnership. So
Yeah.
I think that's how life goes sometimes. But I think it's great on both of your
Yeah.
parts where you were able to evaluate, like, this is not the trajectory that I want to be on. Over here we're drifting apart, and I'm not going to stay just for the sake of staying.
Right.
So
And let me clarify, because we didn't get married until I was about 28 or 29 years old.
okay, so you guys were together for a while
We
before
were
you got married.
together for a while, and we even survived a long distance relationship. Um, we just went down different paths,
Yeah.
and even if, I mean, we could have been married for all of that time. It was just, to your point, it was too much of me invested at such a young age,
Right.
not being settled and not being able to explore life. I remember my grandmother, when I told her I was getting married, or she said, well, why don't you just travel some more?
Mm.
And I was like, I'm almost 30 years old.
Like, I'm good.
Like, why are you dimming the shine from me? But she was
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was right. And this is a woman who got married when she was around 18. So,
So she knew something about that.
right, right.
So that makes a lot of sense. So would you say, like, for you all, did you try? Because I asked this question about, what did you try before you left the marriage? Because I have a friend girl who got married, and they were married for, I don't know how long. It wasn't a very long time, but she didn't try anything. She didn't do therapy. They didn't do separation. They didn't do anything. She was like, I'm over this and I am over and out. And she
Yeah.
left. She was like, I'm out. So, did you all try anything, or do you recommend people trying different things before they exit stage left?
Oh, I definitely recommend everyone to try. Definitely try. We actually went to counseling several times. And, for a while it was okay. And then we go back and then it'd be okay. And,
A cycle.
it just wasn't, it just wasn't where we needed it to be.
Right,
And
right.
so, I don't think the counseling, eventually it wasn't going to help us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because it was time to go. Do you agree with that?
I do. I agree with it. But there is a piece of me that's like, oh, girl, it's time to go. But ultimately, you go before God and a body of people, and you make vows to each other. And
right.
when you do something that serious, you need to invest every piece of energy in making sure that if you vacate, that you have done everything, that you're comfortable,
Right.
that you have done everything. Now, my ex-husband and I did not go to counseling, but we did have lots of trials. Counseling wasn't really, his thing, right? And I didn't force it because I felt like if he didn't want to put forward that energy, then so be it, right?
Right.
I did, I spent time, I prayed and meditated on my marriage for years. I asked God for signs, and he sent me a couple that I ignored. And then he sent me a big one, and I said, I gotta go.
Said, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Anya, that I ignored those little pebbles, and then you get hit with the rock.
And it's like, I'm woke.
Then you're like, all right, that's it.
I'm over here bleeding because this rock just hit me in my head. I gotta do something. And I think that's in relationships, period. A lot of times, it's tough for somebody to get like one or two strikes and you to be like, I'm out. It's almost like, they gotta strike out. I think that's human nature for us to do that, to not just walk out the door immediately. I think there are very few people on this earth, like my friend girl, that are able to say, like, I'm out, I'm gone, and really be done, and not even to double back to it. So in those times, of course, we are making those decisions. Like you said, I'm big on trying to pray and meditate and, therapy. I call them coping skills, trying to cope with whatever situation is I'm going through. What did your support look like, or what should support look like during that time? Because we know sometimes when you're going through a divorce or a separation or just even a breakup, because of 2020, social media, a lot of things, it can be kind of embarrassing for people where they don't want to talk about it. They want to be secretive. They want to, when they need support. So, what should support look like during those times? And I know that may mean that some people have to press through and open their mouths to share in times that they may not want to, but they need to. So what you guys say about that?
Go
ahead.
For me, I went to counseling.
Like solo, like your own counseling?
Like solo.
Okay.
Yes. And I have a really great friend network. I really do. And not that you have to share all the details about everything that's going on, but just know that, that you have those friends that have your back no matter what,
Mhm.
you know, and they don't have to know the details about
Right.
what's going on, but they know that you're hurting,
Yeah.
you know, and so they're there to support you.
Right.
So, I have, you know, I have an awesome sister. And then I have a really great friend network that helped supported me through it all. And in
Awesome.
fact, they gave me what is considered, some would consider a divorce party. It was not.
I
It
love
was it was a newly unwed party. Did you hear me? Let me repeat it again. Newly
newly
unwed.
unwed party. I love it. I love it.
And it was all about, you know, this new beginning, this new life, this new journey for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to support me. Not
Yeah.
necessarily, it wasn't about bashing anybody or saying
Right. Right.
anything bad. It was about, oh my gosh, Christina, what are you going to do now? You know,
Mhm.
oh, Miranda.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do now? So then that was, you know, that was the kickoff of that. That was my project kickoff.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
You know, it is a balance that you have to strike when it comes to support, because those who are closest to you, they want to be there for you, but you know, you are in a marriage and everything is not for everybody. You know, there are
Right.
some things that you need to protect,
Mm-hmm.
particularly when you're trying to figure it out, right? Because I have those friends and I have those sisters where if I go and tell it and they ain't feeling it, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, you have to be discerning, and there are things about your marriage, even if you're going through it, that you need to protect. But you know, having those friends, and if you don't have those friends, then you do need to find someone to talk to. So you do need to find a counselor. My support system, I knew that when I got to a point, I had to really be honest with myself and look at the history of my marriage and the
Mm-hmm.
things that were going on. And that if one of my sisters, if my best friend came and told me those things that were going on in her life, had told me those
Mm-hmm.
things in that order, I'd be like, and you're still there because, you know, I had to kind of do a self-reflection and offer that bit of support to myself. But having people who you kind of have in the back of your mind, kind of like as that little person on your shoulder, even if you're
Mm-hmm.
not able to share those details with them or you choose not to, is helpful. Having someone who is a point of reference, and
Yeah.
you know, you can think it through with, even if it's kind of internal, that thought
Yeah.
process.
Right.
And it sounds like both based on what you both are saying, having that sisterhood, having those friendships that support you, and sharing what you're comfortable with. You don't have to give the nitty gritty, the dirty details if you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then, you know, those skills like therapy and recognizing, you know, what direction you need to go in was essential for you guys. And I'm sure for anybody listening that may, you know, need to hear that.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm
I
gonna
do
ask
want
this.
to
Oh, go
add,
ahead.
because I think it's important
Mm-hmm.
for women to know, if you choose to share, because I did share a lot of
Mm-hmm.
what was going on, because I'm very analytical, and so I try to, like, you know, I want to understand from someone who I trust. You're
Mm-hmm.
sharing information because you want feedback. Do not go to your sister girl who does not have a relationship, ain't never had no
Right.
husband, and ask her for
Right.
advice. And it's not that she can't give advice, but it may not be the right advice. If you want
Mm-hmm.
to get something honest, go to someone who's been married for some years. And that is exactly
Mm-hmm.
what I did. I have a best friend. We've been best friends since we were 14 years old. She actually
Mm-hmm.
is not first I went to about my marriage. It
Yeah.
was someone who had
Yeah.
been married for 20 some years. I wanted to hear from her. And that
Right.
gave me the balance that I needed in having that
Right.
conversation.
That's so important that you said that, because it's very true. I think when it comes to relationships, we have to be mindful that, you know, our best friend might not be the first person that we need to
Mm-hmm.
go to. I think that person with the long relationship history of it being marriage, and sometimes I know people that have been in partnerships for very long times. You have to know, I think everybody has a variety of people in their network, in their tribes, in their
Mm-hmm.
sisterhoods. You just have to know who to go to for what it is that you are looking for, if you want honest and real
Right.
answers. You know, if
Mm-hmm.
you are looking for somebody to just agree with you, you know, because, the best friend that hasn't had a man and forever may be like, girl, yeah, let's go. You need to leave him, where she hasn't even thought it through.
Right.
So it's very accurate information.
And at the end of the day, they're going to give you their perspective.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But it's always going to be about what you want to do. Right.
And that's the biggest thing.
What is best for you. Right.
I had very close, someone who's very close to me in life who was going through some extreme marital problems. Now, when I heard about what was going on, what I wanted to say is, oh, no, you got to go. That's what I wanted to say. And this is, seasoned Aigner. But the question I asked her was, in your heart, down to your gut, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? And she said she wanted to stay. And that is what drove our conversation.
Yep. Where you want to come from the heart. What do you really want to do? Not what your feelings are telling you, what you think I'm going to tell you, or what your fear is telling you. What do you really want to do? And let's try to work from there. And if it doesn't work out, that you gave it all that you had.
Exactly.
And the chips just had to fall into place.
And even a true friend will allow you that balance to say, yeah, I want to stay. But then next week you may decide to go. Yeah. And so a true friend is just going to be there. Just be there to listen through it all.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, yes. I agree. Now, do you guys think it's a such thing as starting to date too soon after divorce?
I do. And it's kind of weird I say that because I felt like my current partner, like when he and I started dating, I told him it was too soon for him, but he wasn't feeling that. So I actually do. But some people, people operate a little differently. Some people don't like to play the field, or I guess play the field might not be the right terminology, but some people just want to be in a relationship. They prefer it. And once they find somebody that they really enjoy spending time with, they want to lock that down. So I kind of feel like there is, but everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody is different. It's a different philosophy. I think that, what would you say, Miranda J, when it comes to dating after?
I think it can be detrimental if you jump out there too soon, because you may not know what you're getting into.
Yeah, that's 2020.
Yeah, so I think for me, I waited a few months perhaps and just started to see. I went to parties and just started to get out there, not necessarily wanting to date, but I think that was good for me. Everybody needs that esteem booster.
Right.
So you need to see if you still got it.
Yeah.
So that was what that was, but not necessarily wanting to jump into something serious. I know for me, I wasn't.
So you took your time with getting back.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you say, I know you said your current partner, he wasn't trying to hear it when you were telling him it was too soon. Do you think you took enough time?
Oh, no, it was too soon for him, in my opinion. I had time.
Gotcha.
My marriage ended technically well before the ink on the divorce ever dried. But I actually celebrated my single life ahead of my divorce. That sounds really bad, but we were not, we were living very separate lives in different states. And, it was, if you ever get to this point, and I hope that nobody ever has to go through it, but if you get to the point in a divorce, sometimes your decisions are not based on, sometimes your decisions are more business oriented. So there's a lot of things that you have to sort through when you go through a divorce. And sometimes you have to make some business decisions. And I stayed a little longer for some business decisions.
And sometimes that's how it goes. That marriage is a partnership. Marriage is a business to some extent. And sometimes for those business decisions, you have to stay a little bit longer. But fortunately, you were able to, still make your exit when you needed to. So what would you say you learned from your marriage that you apply in a positive way to your current relationship or current dating life?
I'd say that it's kind of weird because they're so different, but I do offer a little more patience.
Okay.
I technically am patient to begin with when it comes to love and my partner, and not making harsh, brash decisions, because I can go, we all can go from 0 to 100 real quick, right? But,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you know, taking that time and trying to understand, being more verbal, because with my marriage, I would take time to think it out, but I would close up, right? So don't talk to me. I really need to
Mhm.
sort this out. I need space
Mhm.
from you.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't put that separation when I'm trying to figure it out. Uh,
Gotcha.
I'm still working on the talking through it, because I have a very hot temper, so I don't want to put us both in a situation where it's awkward. um,
Yeah. Right. Right.
so I keep that closeness, because before I'd be like, Mom, I'm on my way home, and home is in Indiana. Okay. Like, I need to get away from this dude. I'm coming home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with being very patient, having more patience, and
Mm-hmm.
being intentional in communicating more about needs and wants and expectations. I'm sorry. You just got
Mhm.
to say it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You gotta say it.
You do. It's
You
almost
have
like
to
that. Like, we
say
talk
it,
a lot about the
and then
Yes.
non-negotiables and things like that. You
yes,
got to talk about
yes, you got to say it to them, and then they got to
Mhm.
say it back.
it.
Sorry,
Yeah.
it can't be a one-sided show here.
Yeah.
So, and then I know that I want someone who's willing to be
Mhm.
vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and communicate in that fashion
And let
with
me
Yeah.
say
me.
something about expectations. You set them on the front end, but revisit them, right?
Early and
Right.
often.
Because
Early and often.
expectations
Yes.
get set in the honeymoon phase.
Oh
Right.
yeah. And then when the honeymoon is over, the expectations are for some
Right,
reason
right.
forgotten.
Right.
So I think it's necessary. I talk a lot about that, about having it's almost like having the non-negotiables, having the standards, and then having the
Mhm.
desirables. It may be certain things that you want, but I think with those things, if you are communicating them early and often, the imperative part is
Right.
the often. You have to say it more than once. You have to say it
Mhm.
throughout the relationship. As they change, you
Mhm.
have to talk about that. And you have to make
Mhm.
sure you have a partner who is willing to communicate that, because we all know communication is
Mhm.
the key to anything. And a lot of men are not the best communicators. So you got to have somebody who's willing to communicate at
And
least
you
a
have
little
to
bit in order to.
identify changes, right? Because nobody stays the same.
Mm,
And the
not at all.
Right.
commitment that you make, the biggest thing that I think people don't really think through with commitment is that, there's going to be changes. And so if you're married to someone, you have to respect those changes as you go along. You have to refigure it out.
Absolutely.
And and if you want a relationship to be viable, that's just what you have to do. And so it takes those continued
Mhm.
conversations. The expectations may change. You may have to reset your expectations, because you can't expect
Mm-hmm.
that out of the person who this person is now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly. What you expect at
Mhm.
year one, you may not be able to expect that
Right.
year 7 or 8, because they may
Right.
not be capable, or a number of things could go into it. And I think that's a part of what sometimes deters people in certain relationships, that you used to do this. Well, I cannot
Hmm.
do that anymore,
Right.
and
You're
people say,
always working on this.
yeah,
it's a work
It
in
is. It is.
progress, I think.
yes. That's what should
It
be
is
in
work in
parentheses
progress.
next to marriage. Marriage, work in
Exactly.
progress. That's what it is. It's not stationary. It's not
Hmm.
one thing. It is ever changing. So, what
Right.
would you say if you had to tell people? I know there's a lot of advice we could definitely give people overall, and we've talked a lot about it in regards to marriage. But if there was like one thing you think people need to really consider, think about, ponder on, meditate on, pray on, if you had to give them just one thing before jumping the broom, what would that thing be?
I would say you really need to consider your why. Like, why is this the person
Okay.
for you? Why
Right.
why do you want to get married? Um, why is this the next step? And I think a lot of
Yeah.
times it boils down to, because we feel like it's that time in our life. You know,
Yep.
it's what we're supposed to do. And that's not a good why.
Not at all. Not at all. I have an episode coming up soon, I think in the next 2 weeks, where I had a guest on that she had left a relationship. In her words, everything was great, except, she wanted to be married. She wanted the ring and she hadn't got it. So she left like a 7-year relationship. And based on what she said, nothing else was wrong. He just hadn't proposed. And that leads me right to what you said. The why. Why was that ring so important when you just said that basically 99% of the relationship was good?
But on that other hand, the expectation. So you have to think long term too. You know, it could have been that she had some different goals, and when you are with somebody, you're in a partnership. So you have to think of it that way.
Both sides. She even talked about, it could be as simple as something like, say, life insurance. Like, say something happens to you, and people will say, well, in a relationship, you can get a will, XYZ. You don't see a lot of boyfriend girlfriends walking around with wills and insurance policies on each other. That's just not how things work typically. And so she was like, even with that, with financial security, a couple of other things she named that were valid. That why she felt that way. But I think it connects directly to what Aigner said. Her why was her why. And it seemed like her partner didn't agree with her why. And that's what goes back to that communication. Your why, it has to, well, in order for the marriage to work, your why has got to align.
I think that with that situation, especially if marriage is something that you want, right? And your partner knows that you want it, but it's not something that they're willing to give to you. That's a problem, right? That's just a problem brewing from the start. Your partner knows you want to get married, but he or she, most people know if they really want to get married or not. Okay.
Right.
So either they end up conceding or they just don't do it because they said from jump, I don't want to do it. Right.
And I'm not going to do it. And a lot of people stand their ground on it. And when they concede,
it's going to be a problem, right? So, as far as the fiscal piece to it, making sure that you have stability and all of this, what I think is that, as women or men, because I will tell my son the same, you have to be able to take care of you. You cannot rely on anybody to take care of you but you. I don't care if you're married for 50 years. You need to be able to take care of you. That means that you're not relying on anybody's insurance money. You need to live. You don't live beyond your means. You might marry someone who makes 7 figures and, maybe you don't live their 7-figure lifestyle.
Right. Live your 5, 6 figure life, whatever your lifestyle
because
is.
If something happens, then you're kind of stuck. What did you put away to take care of the lifestyle that you can afford?
That you can sustain. Yep. That's absolutely right. So I think you would definitely have to do what works for you. But I love that. The why. That makes
the why. Yeah, I agree with that. Aigner. The why. But that why does change over time. It's a work in progress. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Knowing the why. On that note, we will be right back with the Living Single segment. All right. So now this brings us to the Living Single segment. And our question of the day is, my partner has zero drive and ambition, like none. On the opposite end, I am a very driven and self-motivated person. They seem to be very lazy. Should I end the relationship or what should I do? So what do you ladies say? What should this, I'm going to assume it's the woman writing this thing.
So, it from what I gather, it sounds like there's some resentment there already. Already. So it doesn't seem like it's a good match. Maybe not now. It could perhaps change later. But I know as for me, he doesn't have to be trying to cure cancer. He at least has to have some goals.
Yeah.
And it has to be driven. Have some hobbies, you know.
Something.
Have some hobbies, you know. Do something for the community at
Yeah.
least. You know, it can't just, in my opinion, I feel like I do a lot. You know, as a single mom, I try to live the best life that I can and afford my children opportunities and show them, you know, things outside of their world and make sure they are exposed to different things. So I want someone who would have that same nature, you know, who would be ambitious in a way, not necessarily wanting, you know, to have 10 jobs or,
Yeah.
you know, do everything in town, but at least think outside of themselves.
Absolutely.
What I'm going to say is, if this is someone who you ended up with, there was something that attracted you to them and they maybe had some initiative on the front end, it might be time to have a conversation to figure out what's wrong. Right?
Yeah.
Because maybe there is something wrong. Depression is real, folks, you know.
It is.
Yeah, that's true.
You're
Yes.
right. Figure out what's going on. And if that individual can't be open and honest about what's going on, then, you know, you're headed towards some deeper matters, right? So if you're married, maybe that's counseling. But what I am going to say is, don't let anybody pull you down too far. Okay. Sometimes getting pulled down just happens naturally, but you have to be able to understand and know, like, listen, I cannot be pulled down any further. Like, I'm cutting free on this. K. Michelle has a song, "You Can't Raise a Man."
Can't raise a man. We talk about it almost every episode. Can't raise a man.
But you know, it's okay to inspire. It's okay to inspire, but you can't carry the load. Honestly.
Because you're going to get tired.
And I think it's, and she has to, I think, just be honest with herself, because like you said, if something shifted, something's changed, that's different. But, you know, you met him. Was he playing the video game all day already? Did he not have a job? Was he already being lazy? Did you think that you were going to inspire him to want to start, you know, being on the level that you were? You know, so I think it's a lot of variables just based on a little bit of information that she gave. But I think overall, like you said, you have to evaluate to see, you know, is it depression? Is there something deeper going on? But on the other side, make sure that you are in a position that you can, if necessary, you might have to leave if you can't get them to adjust and get where you want them to be. Because like I always say, you can't make a grown person do anything. And nothing that they don't want to do. So sis, it looks like it's some conversations you need to have, some reality checks that you might need to have with yourself. And then I think you need to make a decision on which way you're going to go. You in or you out?
Yeah.
And
you can only control yourself.
Exactly. So on that note, make sure if you have a question for our Living Single segment that you send it in to us on Instagram at To Be Single or Not To Be, or you can send it on Facebook at our Facebook page, To Be Single or Not To Be Apparel. And on that note, we'll be right back with the resolution. All right, so now this brings us to the resolution. And as you listeners know, this is where we just have a quick roundtable discussion with our final thoughts on the subject matter at hand. And the question that we have today, really want to leave you with the thoughts on how, if you are facing divorce or a breakup or just a relationship ending, how you can come out on the other side of that and be open to finding love. So either one of you, feel free to go first.
I will say that through the process, you have to be true to yourself. You have to identify what's important to you and why it's important. And once you start making moves, those are your goals. They turn into what you have to achieve. And you have to have support. You have to be able to be strong. It's a lot of strength that it takes to work through a divorce. It is not simple at all. I don't care how pissed off you are. It hurts.
Yeah.
So you have to work on you and be centered and be patient with yourself and allow yourself to grieve through the process, even after the process. But you have to set some new you goals. And that's what's going to put you on the other side. You cannot, you can't lament it for too long, right? You have to, it's just like with anything, you have to let it go through the process, but you have to pick yourself back up, and setting those you goals is what is going to help you, whatever it is. It could be you want to shape up a new body. It could be that you want to go back to school. It could be that you want to be a better daughter, mother, friend, that you want to learn a new life skill. Whatever it is, you need to set some you goals that are going to help you find that balance and help you identify yourself as an individual outside of your marriage. And just like I said, understand the why on the front end, understand your why coming out.
So I would say, therapy is always important to understanding how you got to that place, and because the you of old is not the you of you now. So you need to really recognize what was then and how you can change that person now. So, I think, again, I agree with you, Anya, about, being centered and understanding what makes you happy, what drives you, because a divorce is a grieving process. You will, it's like someone has died. The relationship has died. So you have to grieve that, but then you have to understand, what do you want to learn from this whole experience and apply it so that you don't either repeat the same thing that you did before, or you gain some new perspective on what will enhance going forward. So
love both sides of it. Those whole you goals, that makes sense. And I love the why on the front end and the back end. You have to do both. And I agree with everything you all said. And I think what stands out to me most too is, I think you have to make sure that you are all the way over it before you jump back out there to date again. I think, we're talking about dating. You can't have one foot in, one foot out, and kind of be indecisive about that. Based on you all talking about your experience, you absolutely were in the space to do it. And I think you have to use all the coping skills that you all talked about, because it is like going through a death. There is a grieving process. There are things you have to work through. And then I think you can only move forward when you are really ready. And that's going to look different for everybody. You can't let, you may meet somebody that you like, but if you really aren't ready, you'll mess that up. It's not the right time. It is not the right time. So I absolutely love everything that you all had to say about that. And I think our listeners will for sure appreciate that perspective of how to move forward when it comes to moving on and still being open to love. So on that note, give yourselves a round of applause for an awesome episode.
That was fun.
Yes, it was awesome. Your opinions, they are always valued and appreciated. And again, Aigner and Miranda J, Aigner G and Miranda J can be found on the Nashville New podcast. It's on all podcast platforms. And what's your social media? If you want to tell the people where your social media is.
Nashville New on Instagram. You can find us at Nashville_new. And we have coming soon Facebook, but we'll put that out there when we get there.
When the time comes, I get it one at a time. So again, thank you all for coming on and having this awesome conversation with me today. It's really appreciated. And on that note, listeners, we'll be right back with the Montana Minute. And now this brings us to the Montana Minute. The first thing, divorce is not something to play with, and neither is marriage or the people that are involved with it. So please ensure it's something you really want to do and aren't just following a trend if you're walking down the aisle. The next thing, if you wind up in a space where your marriage or relationship doesn't work out, figure out the proper path for you to reach your space of healing before moving on to another relationship. And the last thing, everyone's life journey is different. So know that if your partnership doesn't work out, it does in no way mean that you're a failure. It just means you need to dust yourself off, figure it out, and try again when you're ready. And on that note, be sure you're following us on social media on Instagram and Facebook. And I now leave you to decide, to be single or not to be. That is the question. Signing off, yours truly, Shanna Montana.